Welcome on today's conversation on the future of work, where AI isn't just a buzzword, but a business driver. This is Lenovo Work Reborn, live in Orlando. Thank you so much for coming by our podcast booth today. Would you mind introducing yourself, who you are, and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Chani Cordero. I'm a CIO at a hospital in Central Texas.
Love it. Love the female women in tech representation. Always excited when I get to interview a CIO. That's also a woman. But yeah. But anyways, we'll leave that for another time. Listen, I think you are just the right person to talk to today because we have been interviewing CIOs from all over the world around topics that are of most concern to them or of most excitement to them. And one of those that is a little bit of both is AI.
Yes.
Excitement, concern, curiosity. We're in a new territory. It's a new era of work, and that's why we call it Work Reborn, right?
Right.
And so we interviewed over 600 senior IT leaders about these very, pertinent topics. And from our report, we got some insights, okay? So from the report, we found that as AI becomes a norm in the workplace, different skills or functions are probably going to start phasing out. So in your opinion, which new ones do you think will be out with the old and with the new?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And like you mentioned, everything this week has all been about AI.
Right.
You can't, run from it. And I think, when I think about the workforce and I think about IT, one of the aspects that a lot of our technicians have is the ability to critically think and solve problems. And my concern is that we're going to lose that. I was taught very young to be a good writer, to be able to convey your ideas on paper. And so I used to spend a lot of time thinking about what I'm going to write and to make sure that I'm conveying the idea. But it's so easy to use,
I know.
name a chat box to, write that thought for me. And I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and I use it, right? And so I have concerns, though, with the ability for people to actually look at what the AI submits for them and then think about it and critically evaluate it. Is that exactly the idea that they mean to convey? Being in healthcare right now, a lot of our physicians, and this is, of course, just my own opinion and not speaking on behalf of any provider out there, but there is a hesitation because they want to make sure that whatever the tool is going to suggest and use, that is actually legit and that is actually going to help their patients. But there's going to be a time where they're not going to have that critical thought to it, and they're going to say, oh, that's what it says, right? I mean, if you look at WebMD, you have cancer, right? And you're just like, no.
That's like the bare origin story of it, right? You Google one thing and it's like, oh, your ear is ringing, guess you're gonna die. And we don't want that, right?
Right, exactly.
And so that's why I hear your concern around, like, how do we moderate? How do we how do we moderate it, but also how do we empower our teams to use their critical thinking and use AI more of a tool rather than a replacement? And I think that's why Lenovo is at the forefront of being a partner and a leader to organizations, and just like yours, where, we're not just selling a thing. Like, we're not selling here's an app, right? Like, it is it's a cohesive program where we come in and we have, consultants, we have a team that can train, we have, we also have the devices, we also have, the Care of One app. Like, they're digital workplace solutions. They aren't digital workplace replacers. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah, and I think that's helpful because, when you look at these tools, it's supposed to be an enhancement, right? Maybe even an enablement to an extent, but really an enhancement. It doesn't supposed to replace. And I think the concern is going to be is that I want the tools all the tools that you mentioned to make our management teams, make our employees a lot more efficient, and especially for our leaders to handle mundane tasks so that they can focus on what's really important, which is the culture and change management. How do we bring people together? The leadership stuff, something that, at this time, AI can't do, or at least.
And if you're stuck with like the mundane, like device provisioning or password reset or oh, we have this, protocol of how to set up this thing and it takes us 3 weeks to get it set up. You're not really thinking about the high level of what's next for tech or culture advancements for the
Right,
organization.
right, right. And that's, I mean, I think that's the hope. I mean, my fear is that we're going to lose the critical thinking. My hope is that we're going to be freed up to critically think more.
Because imagine for you and your team and any of our CEOs, like what could be possible if all of that was implemented and set up and you could just get to the good stuff.
Get to the good stuff. Yeah.
Right. And especially in healthcare, I mean, having the proper tools in place, like there are lives on the line, and you want to make sure that no one or two small mundane things take away from the technology that's meant to save people and
Oh, no.
distract.
No, absolutely. I mean, in healthcare, I mean, the rate of technology have grown that sometimes it's difficult for our providers to take time to take care of the actual patient, right? Because they have, click here and click there, and all
Right.
of these different applications and diagnosis tools, which is great to help in patient care. But then, the phone, they're tethered to their devices, right? Instead of actually spending that time with the patient. And so as these tools evolve and they can take care of those
Yes.
mundane things so that the provider actually has that time to listen to the patient and then use those tools to help render a diagnosis and a treatment plan, we'll be in a good place.
So to kind of end on that positive note, if implemented correctly with the right partners and team members in place, what does work reborn mean to you? How do we bring new life to the modern workplace? What does that future look like?
You know, I like that question because again, it goes back to the human element of it all. And so as we focus so much on the tech, how do we just go back to just taking care of people? And I think by having this type of technology and having it used in a regular workflow workplace, we actually can go back to building more collaboration to solve problems and where people are valued more so than sitting there hitting the enter key all day long.
Right, right. And, the organizations that have that moral compass and that alignment, they're going to do that. And the organizations from prior to AI that don't have that thinking, they're not. And it's up to the
Yes.
leadership at the top, leaders like you, to make that positive impact and change in your role.
And if not, we'll just go to the Terminator. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Everyone will have an AI version of themselves.
I'm sure John Connor will handle it.
Right. I mean, I just want those cool sunglasses that she had. That's all I want. Anyways, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This has
Yes.
been a pleasure. If anyone is interested in learning more about the insights that we've gained from our Work Reborn report, you've got to check it out. Download it in the link below. And if you're watching us here on YouTube, hello, scan that QR code on the screen here, grab yourself a copy. And that's a wrap for this episode. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, same. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us live in Orlando for this amazing episode of Work Reborn. I've been your host, Rita Risha, and it's been a pleasure to bring you insightful conversations from around the world, especially at this event, on how we are bringing new life to the modern workplace. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to stay tuned on more ways that we are doing just that, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe our channel and download a copy of the Work Reborn report today.
Lenovo.